Venerable Khenpo Sodargye, distinguished leaders, teachers, and fellow students, good morning to all of you. Welcome everyone to today's gathering. There is a loving energy here that brings us together. I am today's host. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to stand here and host today's event. Today, we are extremely honored to respectfully invite a great Pandita from the Tibetan region, Khenpo Sodargye, to visit China's first tuition-free university, Beijing Huaxia Management College, to reveal the profound mysteries of Buddhism for us and share the wisdom of the heart. First, please allow me to give you a brief introduction. Khenpo Sodargye is a great Khenpo at Larung 5 Sciences Buddhist Academy. In terms of translation work, Khenpo has translated a vast number of precious Tibetan treatises into Chinese. In terms of teaching, Khenpo makes use of the internet, videos, and other means to share the wisdom of the heart with everyone. In terms of charitable work, Khenpo has established in impoverished areas many schools and nursing homes, providing education to children who are out of school and care for the elderly who are alone, and has launched the Activate Love initiative. In terms of academic work, Khenpo has been invited to Tsinghua, Peking University, Renmin University, Fudan, as well as Chinese University of Hong Kong, Hong Kong Polytechnic, and other universities to engage in extensive exchanges with everyone, which the students have found deeply beneficial. So today, we are also fortunate to have invited Khenpo Sodargye to come to our tuition-free university to teach the students. First, let us invite the president of Beijing Huaxia Management College to deliver a welcoming speech. Let's give a warm round of applause, please.
Thank you. Please be seated. Here, let me, on behalf of all the teachers and students of Huaxia College, extend our warmest welcome and most sincere gratitude to Khenpo Sodargye for his arrival. Thank you. Thank you. Today, many of our Dharma friends, as well as some entrepreneur friends, have come here today to practice together. Let us, with enthusiastic applause, express our welcome and gratitude. Thank you. In a person's lifetime, there are three most important choices. The first choice is to choose a life mentor, which determines one's wisdom for life. The second important choice is to choose career partners, which determines one's life achievements. The third important choice is to choose a life partner, which determines one's happiness index. The most important first choice in our lives is to choose a good life mentor well. Khenpo Sodargye is a teacher I deeply respect. He truly has extremely high attainments in Buddhist studies. At the same time, his Dharma propagation and benefiting of sentient beings has influenced countless lives. I feel that his arrival for each and every one of our students is an important blessing and guidance. I hope that each and every one of you will listen attentively to the Guru's sharing. I know that many people walk thousands of miles, tens of thousands of miles, and then reach Larung Buddhist Academy to receive the Guru's guidance and blessings. And today, the Guru has personally come to our college, come here. So we must also, with a heart of pilgrimage, a heart of reverence, and a heart of devotion, listen to the Guru's sharing. All right? All students, please stand up. With our most respectful hearts and devoted hearts, let us respectfully invite the Guru to share his wonderful teachings with us.
First of all, I would like to thank our President Jiang very much for his dedication and for bringing everyone happiness of the heart, happiness in life, happiness in the environment, as well as love in all aspects. When I just entered this management college, I truly felt a taste of love. First, we just visited the Great Love Hall Academy. Inside, there are so many books. I believe these books of wisdom will also bring love into everyone's hearts. And then, over there, we also took a photo on the big stone that says, "Love the world." It is also through this kind of connection that we also sincerely hope from the depths of our hearts that in the future, each and every student, each and every teacher will love all sentient beings in the world from the bottom of their hearts. This is what we call, according to Buddhism, the thought of Mahayana Buddhism. Just now, I also saw that the banner at your entrance here also says, "Let the world enjoy the light of love." It's not only that all of us present here enjoy the light of love. Right now, many of you students are probably receiving the help of people with loving hearts, the support of people with loving hearts, their compassionate care. But when each one of us leaves this school gate and goes out into the world, we all have an inescapable responsibility. We must pass on this love of ours to the world so that many, many people in the world can receive the nourishment of love. So today, I've been asked to speak about the energy of love. In fact, about the energy of love, I can also share many principles with all of you. Indeed and truly, when we human beings come into this world, we all need love. As we all know, when we couldn't yet speak, when we didn't yet understand things, at that time, we received the love of our parents. When we grew up a little bit, in fact, our parents gave us the best food, the best clothing, the best education, and we kept growing. And then, after we grew up a bit more and became a bit bigger, when we arrived at school, the school teachers also transmitted all of their wisdom to us. It should be said that school is also a place where we receive education in love, a very good setting. And then, when we entered society, on the surface, it may seem that many of us, whether they are colleagues or our own classmates, have no connection with you. But in reality, we are living in a world of love. If all the people around us abandon you, if they dismiss you with disdain, it would be very difficult for us to survive. Therefore, our world is actually one of mutual dependence, mutual reliance, and the function of mutual love is constantly being transmitted in ways that are obvious or not obvious. So I think that today, for all of you present here, for my part, I also very much want to speak about this. Indeed, the power of love is still very great. Each and every one of us should seriously contemplate and study knowledge related to love. If all of us become people with loving hearts, then not only will we ourselves live very happily, but more importantly, we will help many people around us who need love. You can share with them the light of love. Therefore, today, this topic, perhaps those of you here haven't noticed it. But actually, if you do notice, then this love may, in different aspects of life and spheres of existence, be constantly manifesting. For example, what we call love. If it is within our families, in reality, children need the love of their parents, and parents need the love of their children. If it's between husband and wife, they both need each other's love. Once love is absent, this family might no longer be established. By the same principle, this kind of love, if it's between teachers and students, then students must love their teachers. If a student hates the teacher, then that is not a good student. If a teacher does not love the students, then he or she is also not a good teacher. Among classmates, there also needs to be a kind of love. If there is no love among classmates, then the so-called classmates are actually just a title, nothing more. Therefore, if we use our wisdom to analyze the world around us or the environment in which we exist, then at that time, indeed, the light of love is present everywhere. It can be said that in every place, it is radiating the true, radiant light of love. Therefore, we think that each and every person, from a young age, must definitely cultivate this kind of education in love. Now, whether it is in the East or the West, school is a base for cultivating students. The educational policies and educational guidance in schools directly affect a person's future. That is to say, their values, their outlook on life, and their outlook on living. If, while we are in school, we experience a great deal of education in love and compassion, then when this person goes out into the world, he or she should be a truly remarkable person. So what am I most worried about right now? After we people grow up, we become very cold and lack loving kindness. This is extremely frightening. I don't know if you've heard of this, but there is someone at Apple Inc. named Tim Cook. He is the CEO. in a commencement speech he gave, I believe it was at MIT, at a graduation ceremony. I don't remember very clearly, but he said something like this: "We are not afraid of machines becoming like human beings." Because now, when artificial intelligence has emerged, many people fear that artificial intelligence will surpass human beings. So he said, we are not afraid of machines becoming like human beings. But what is most frightening? It's when we humans become like computers and machines. This is very meaningful. I also often think this way. If we human beings have no compassion, no loving kindness, no empathy, if the relationships between people are very cold, and furthermore, if, when it comes to being a person, the basic character, this is the bottom line, this is very important. But if you lack the basic human heart for being a person, if you commit all kinds of evil without any restraint, such a person is the most frightening. Robots may not necessarily destroy our world, but we are afraid that many people who disregard cause and effect will appear in the world. That is to say, people who do not care about the feelings of us human beings. If such people have capability, intelligence, and skills, they could very possibly destroy our entire world in an instant. If they have such capability, they may create many, many things that harm humanity. So what are we especially concerned about? It is that when children are being educated from a young age, there should be a transmission of wisdom from teachers who have loving hearts. In this way, gradually, in the end, we can say that the trickle of love becomes a vast ocean. This is a very important matter. So first of all, I want to emphasize to everyone that each and every person should look within themselves to see whether or not you truly have this kind of loving heart. Once you have a loving heart, then throughout our life's journey, there may be all kinds of setbacks or success or failure and so on. Because in life, according to what is taught in the Buddhist sutras, every sentient being has their own different karma from past lives. If your karma from past lives was not created very well, then in this life there may be many, many inequalities or things that don't go smoothly or unsatisfactory circumstances that will appear. But if, in your past lives, you created many, many virtuous karmas, then all the wishes in this present life may also be fulfilled as you desire, and all your dreams may easily come to success. So, our human life is not a particularly certain or predictable journey, but if we all embrace the world with a kind of love, embrace ourselves, then throughout your journey, there will certainly be people continuously loving you and helping you. If we ourselves depart from this kind of heart, then perhaps whatever path in life we walk, we'll find ourselves at a dead end. All of you here are studying management, and in the future, you should engage in different industries. No matter what you engage in reality, our principle should ideally be to have a kind of compassionate heart. Generally, when we do anything, if I want to help others, want to give, want to offer, on the surface, it looks like I'm helping others. But if we observe ourselves with wisdom, in reality, we are awakening our own loving hearts, awakening our own virtuous hearts. Each and every one of us should have many virtuous resources stored in the treasury of our minds. It's just that some people have encountered negative conditions, bad environments, bad teachers, and in the end, their treasure of virtue has not been developed. Instead, there are many evil minds that gradually proliferate in this world. So, my suggestion is that many of us here must definitely develop this kind of treasure of virtue that you possess in the future. So, what is the only method to develop the treasure of virtue? Whether you are studying, whether you are working, whether you are living your life, you must have a kind of unconditional wish to help others. If you have the capability of money, the capability of position, or the capability of education, use these resources to help others. If you do not have such resources, then even if it's just a smile, even if it's just a word of comfort, even if it's just a gesture, an expression, and so on, using all kinds of different ways, if you help others from a young age, then, on the surface, it may seem that this person has truly helped me. When I was most in difficulty, when I most needed help, this person helped me. In reality, this person has not only helped you, but they have developed their own treasure that they possess. Previously, they had not discovered in themselves. In our Buddhism, we speak of the Tathagatagarbha. Upon the alaya, there is a kind of extremely precious storehouse of virtue, like a treasure vault. But by relying on this path and method of helping others, we ultimately develop our own virtuous hearts. As for myself, it is also like this. I am also building some schools. Each time I build a school, in reality, I encounter many impoverished students from mountainous areas. Actually, I often receive offerings from others. I give this money to others. But usually, I think that the value of money is not only the value of giving it to others. More importantly, when I encounter these people from the bottom of my heart, there is a great deal of virtuous, positive energy in my heart. Through this kind of connection, it is developed unconsciously and naturally. In reality, this is something that each and every person should cherish. On the surface, it looks like this person is helping others, but in reality, they are not helping others. Actually, they are helping themselves. Why helping themselves? If you did not have this kind of object and condition, you might forever sleep in this kind of neutral state. But because you have this condition, by relying on this condition, you have already awakened your own innate virtuous heart. So my suggestion is, while we develop others and help others, at the same time, the one who benefits is yourself. Also, in the future, all of you here may run businesses and engage in all kinds of things that serve society. In this process, we must use compassionate hearts to help others. Using a compassionate heart to help others, on the surface, it looks like you are giving to others, but in reality, the one who benefits is yourself. I see that some entrepreneurs also often say this, including the business philosophy of Starbucks coffee. At that time, actually, this business may not necessarily have been making money. There was a great deal of giving, but their only philosophy was, we want society to benefit. Then, naturally and spontaneously, they themselves received commercial returns. So, whenever we think, I want to harm him, or I want to make money from him, then each and every person, especially people in this current era, many people are quite intelligent. They know how to calculate. They know how to figure things out. But if we truly give continuously and continuously help others, then naturally and spontaneously, there is a kind of inconceivable connection that we may bring benefit to ourselves. So, we often see many people with loving hearts in the world. At the beginning, they have a kind of inescapable force that makes them want to help others. In the process of helping others, it is very possible that they easily become famous. It is very possible that they easily succeed. This is what our human history, or each person's life's connections, bring to us, different resources. Therefore, I hope that many people should, with their own wisdom and their own compassionate hearts, develop the resources of your minds. This is a very important, great matter. Also, I think that all of you here are actually not having it very easy either. But indeed and truly, we must learn love. This love has different kinds. Today, it is necessary for me to share this with you here. From the Buddhist point of view, there are some people who only love themselves and do not harm any other sentient beings. And there are some people who not only do not harm sentient beings, but also go and help others. I will share two stories. First of all, the first one I want to share is about how this love is very important. Everyone knows Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple's iPhone. When Steve Jobs finally had late-stage cancer, I saw in some of the introductory materials about him that it said he still had a relatively short amount of time in which he needed a liver transplant surgery. At that time, they sought out hospitals and sought out governors asking, could we be moved up a bit in the queue? But according to American law, they were not allowed to do so. Later, they asked Jobs, is it necessary for us to spend money or use other methods to let you move up in the queue? At that time, he was very surprised and said, why? All lives are equal. Why should I move up in the queue? We cannot harm other people. Later, he waited until 6 months later. By then, basically, many cancer cells had already spread. Although the surgery was performed at that time, in the end, 2 years later, he also departed from this world. When he was close to departing, he had no complaints, no regrets. He did not think, at that time, I should have tried every possible method to push other people's surgeries elsewhere and insert myself. He did not think like that. So, from a small story like this, we can see that is to say, for ourselves, would we be like this? Once you and many other people are standing in line at the door of death, would we cut in line? All lives are equal. If we treat each and every person with a kind of love, this is what we in Buddhism call, it's like the thought of the Shravakayana now. That is to say, we use love to protect others' state of mind. This is extremely important in life. All of you here and the students here, in the future, in your lives, in your life journey, you will need to face many things. At that time, we have the power to protect other lives. But we also have the ability to destroy other lives. The love I'm speaking about today, in reality, there are many kinds of great love and many kinds of small love. Within small love, there are also many kinds of love. What we call romantic love in this world, this kind of attachment and infatuation, can also be called love. But in reality, if it's not handled well, it can also turn into hatred. It can also turn into suffering. It can also turn into another kind of negative emotion. Even now, what we call love in this world, if it's not treated very well, can conversely cause one's own life to be lost completely. Now, many students jump from buildings and commit suicide when there are problems in romantic relationships. In reality, they don't understand what so-called love truly is. It's because they become attached to a small kind of love, cling to it too excessively and too extremely. For this reason, in the end, even their own most precious life comes to an end right there. So here, we would also especially like to emphasize, you must, absolutely must, understand how to cherish your own life and also understand how to cherish the lives of others. This is an extremely important matter. Now, I just spoke about how love has this quality, loving one's own life while also loving the lives of others. According to the Mahayana thought of our Buddhism, it's not only about loving others, but also knowing how to protect them. And this kind of protection means that even if someone has harmed you, you still go to help that person. Such a heart is extraordinarily great. For ordinary people like us, this is probably very difficult to imagine. Today, I'd also like to briefly share with you here a very famous story from Buddhism. It's called The Transmission of the Dharma Treasury, a biography from India. It's also been translated in Chinese Han Buddhism. Now, when I first read this biography at the Buddhist Academy, at that time, I contemplated it for a very long time. I thought, if such a thing were to happen to me, what would I do? Each person's values are different. Each person's preferences are different. You like to wear this kind of clothing. I like to wear this kind of clothing. In reality, each and every one of us should have, in our own cells or in the genes of our own minds, many, many different aspects. Whether it's eating, whether it's wearing clothes, whether it's your faith, whether it's the goals you pursue, there are many, many different aspects. So in the future, we must also learn to respect others and not look down on others because of our differences. I often go to some schools, and when I'm there, some teachers, of course, here at your place, toward Buddhism, there's a very accommodating and welcoming environment. So this kind of problem doesn't exist here. But when I go to some places where they've never seen monastics, in such settings, many people don't understand. So many people ask me whether I should wear casual clothes or wear a suit, but I insist on saying, this is my own principle. If you make such a request, then I simply won't come. I say it like this. So sometimes, perhaps for each person, in the future, many of you students will go out into society. People in society are of all kinds. From my wisdom and my perspective, this person seems very strange. Why does he wear this kind of clothing? Why does he eat this kind of food? Why does he like this kind of person? Why is he willing to accept this kind of work? Why is he willing to respect this kind of leader, and so on? From our own imagination, some things are very difficult to accept. But in reality, in this world of ours, we can say there are all kinds of things. Products are of all kinds. People's minds are of all kinds. People's behaviors are of all kinds. So in the future, we cannot use our own standards to measure others. This is also something that when you go out into society in the future, communication and learning are actually very important. I see that here you have many different teachers and all kinds of different people transmitting different thoughts to you. Actually, this is very important. Right now, while we're in school, informal schools, although they have a very formal, progressive curriculum advancement like this, sometimes there's relatively little interaction with people. For this reason, when they go out into society, many people don't have many ideas. They're rigid, like robots. They have no thinking. Aside from the knowledge from coursework, they don't know how to communicate with others at all. So when we're studying in school, the most important thing is to learn how to be a person and how to do things, how to speak, and how to give presentations. And it's not only about presentations. At the same time, you truly need to handle many things yourself. I have a relative who graduated from university. I also have another relative's child who didn't even finish elementary school. But the person who didn't finish elementary school, he often went to work, often drove vehicles, and spent time out in the world for a while. Later, for a period of time, the person who went to university and the person who didn't finish elementary school, we all stayed together for about 1 or 2 days. During those 1 or 2 days, the university graduate was especially clumsy. He was perhaps from a very closed and conservative social environment like this. Although he could write about physics, chemistry, these valuable subjects, he could write. Writing essays, these things were okay. But when it came to society, he couldn't speak, he couldn't do things. Later I said, your university education has been of no use. The person who didn't finish elementary school, in terms of social experience, doing things, they were the same age. Later, I felt that sometimes people must definitely study and grow through different environments. If you can grow, then whatever kind of school you attend, it will be very meaningful. So here, I want to add this point. Next, I'd also like to speak about another matter. What I want to tell you today is this. According to some Buddhist thoughts, for us ordinary people, common people, this is very difficult to imagine. I'll also use a simple story to explain this to you. In the book, The Transmission of the Dharma Treasury that I just mentioned, I read a story. This story is about the very famous Nagarjuna Bodhisattva in Buddhism. He had a disciple named Aryadeva. This Aryadeva was very famous, very wise, especially in debate. In India and in Tibetan Buddhism, they especially love debate, using logic. I see that many universities also have debates. Actually, debate is very important for developing one's wisdom. So this Aryadeva quite enjoyed debate. When Nagarjuna Bodhisattva left this world, he said, in the future, use your wisdom to propagate my dharma, to propagate my truth. Then he departed from this world. After departing from this world, this Aryadeva went to some places to give his teachings. In the process of teaching once, he said to the local king, I very much want to establish a debate opportunity. In the debate setting, whoever cannot win in debate, I can give my head to him. If I've already won in debate, then I'll cut off someone else's head. He made such an announcement in a large gathering. Later, there was a teacher, a spiritual guide, who truly and certainly had lost. He said, then in that case, you can cut off my head. At that time, Aryadeva said, there's no need to cut off your head. Your hair will be enough. Later, he gave up his own religion and entered Buddhism, just like me, shaving his head and entering this faith. But his disciple was especially indignant. He felt, my teacher has already become a person under your control. Although I cannot defeat you with wisdom, I should challenge you with weapons. Later, he prepared to confront him on behalf of his teacher. So he took a long knife and went everywhere searching for Aryadeva. Because at that time, Aryadeva also had quite a few disciples, quite a few students, so there was no opportunity. Once, in a forest, he was meditating. While he was meditating, the attacker found this opportunity. All of his students had gone off to play. At this moment, he found this opportunity. Immediately, he began to stab him in the body with the knife. All his internal organs came out. Even his intestines came out. The book describes it very frighteningly. But at that moment, Aryadeva did not hate this assailant. He said, I have some belongings and I have some robes and bowls. Just take these. For now, if you sell them, they may be useful for your life. Because you've now already killed someone, quickly leave me. Otherwise, when my students come, you certainly won't have a good ending. But at this moment, that person was especially regretful. Such a good person, he's still advising me, giving me money, and urging me to leave quickly, and even wants to protect me. At that time, he was especially sorrowful, tears streaming down his face. He said, I was wrong. I shouldn't have killed you just now. But Aryadeva said, you don't need to say anything now. Otherwise, if you wait any longer, all of my students will certainly come back. At that time, all of his internal organs had already been pulled out, but he still had one breath left. At that moment, he urged him to leave quickly, leave quickly. There's a path over there. If you follow this path, they won't find out. Then this assailant took his remaining belongings and left. So this kind of state of mind, in Mahayana Buddhist thought, it truly and genuinely does appear. But for ourselves, our way of thinking may be completely different. We may, if someone slightly slanders us, if someone has a bit of hatred toward us or is unkind to us, we might think about revenge. Some people think about revenge. Even if you don't seek revenge, you absolutely would not think about helping that person. If someone truly stabbed my body with a knife, would I feel great hatred? Most certainly, many people would. So, someone like me, I've also transmitted Buddhist thoughts on love for many years, but sometimes, when speaking about these higher levels of the realm of love, I also feel quite ashamed. Although there were such great figures in history in our current world, there are indeed those who use their own lives, sacrifice their own lives to help others, whether with their own wealth or with their own time or with absolutely everything they have to help others. But can we ourselves do this? It's very, very difficult. So in this society of ours, in reality, this kind of education in love, perhaps among worldly people, some will not acknowledge it. Others believe that if someone is good to you, you should be good to them. But if someone is unkind to you, then I should in my own way attack them, retaliate, and so on. There are such thoughts. In reality, these should be considered a kind of worldview in our world. Therefore, today, we often say verbally, love others, love sentient beings, love the whole world. But in reality, how do we truly love? This love has many levels. There's one kind of love, just as we mentioned earlier, a very narrow kind of love. This narrow love, perhaps you worldly people often hear, the deeper the love, the deeper the hatred. The more and more you love this person, if this person has even a slight, their gaze is wrong, their words are wrong. In this way, you control them very tightly, as if this person is locked in prison. In this way, this person instead experiences many adverse effects physically and mentally. In the end, it may lead to mutual lack of love. Such phenomena are becoming more and more common now. But what's most important? It's a kind of love from the depths of our hearts. In Buddhism, this is called compassion. What is loving kindness? Loving kindness means wishing that all sentient beings, or these beings, attain happiness. This is called loving kindness. What is compassion? It's wishing that those who are experiencing suffering can, as quickly as possible, be free from such suffering. One is about attaining, the other is about being freed from suffering. That is to say, freedom from suffering and attainment of happiness. These two levels are called loving kindness and compassion. This is actually what we worldly people often call love. Therefore, I think for all of you here today, in reality right now, as I also mentioned yesterday, this is a very special era. At this time, many people lack loving hearts. But here, there truly is the nation's first tuition-free university like this. Behind this, with our President Jiang as the leader, there is the quiet, selfless dedication of all the deans and teachers. This is a giving of love. If there were no such power of love, I believe that many of the students here would absolutely not have such wonderful learning opportunities in such conditions. It would absolutely not be possible. But this kind of love, we must continue it. We must pass it on generation after generation. Now, to pass it on, we mainly rely on our education. If we don't have good education, love cannot be passed on. Now, many people fear the emergence of artificial intelligence, thinking, will all of us humans be conquered? Will there be a day when all the robots control all of humanity? But I myself have always believed that no matter what. Although artificial intelligence has deep learning and is constantly being updated with many, many operating systems and programs, this is indeed undeniable. And our changes are happening especially fast now. So today is indeed different from any era of the past. And there are some dangers. But in reality, what's different between artificial intelligence and us humans? We have love. Even the worst person has love in their heart. I often go to some prisons and drug rehabilitation centers. They're considered to be very, very bad people. But in reality, deep in their hearts, it's not that they lack love. They should have these resources and seeds of love. Therefore, I think no matter how advanced artificial intelligence becomes, it cannot possibly have this flexible mentality of loving the world. For us to triumph over this world, to transcend this world, there is an inconceivable power. And this is love. Thank you all very much for learning about love. This is the goal we seek and the purpose of our study. Thank you, everyone.
Khenpo's wonderful teachings today in this gathering. Let us together, with our hearts, experience love.